Hello there. This video today is for someone who is suffering anxiety. What is anxiety? Well, according to the mainstream model, anxiety is still essentially a chemical imbalance. Someone who is diagnosed with chronic anxiety is given a prescription to something that they take, and this will fix up the chemical imbalance in the brain. Now, the reason I am skeptical is because I spent 10 years on this very kind of treatment for the chemical imbalance that I was experiencing. And for about 10 years, I went off and on different types of prescription medications for this experience and didn't help. It didn't work. In fact, it made me numb. It stopped me from evolving. It put me into a place of stagnation. Now, I'm not saying that there's a purpose and a place for these kind of treatments, but we have to admit, if we're going to generalize things and then make it a very common treatment for people, then we're going to be missing the point here. And so this is the point that I want to bring here today. Anxiety is a fear, and fear creates a chemical imbalance in the mind, in the brain. It's as simple as that. Our thoughts create our reality. Our thoughts, what forms our thoughts, our beliefs, our values, our memory and experiences shape and form the filter of our perception. So, of course, if we've had an upbringing or a childhood that was involved with all kinds of traumas and all kinds of negative experiences, then we're going to have a filter system, a way of seeing the world that is a struggle. And that's going to create chemicals, neural peptides that pump out certain states of mind, creating, if you like, that chemical imbalance. But either way, it is our perception of reality that creates anxiety. So if I was to very simply put what the definition of anxiety is according to neuro-linguistic programming, it is really a fear of the future. And what is the future? The future is a fantasy. Have you noticed the future never comes? Tomorrow never comes. It's never tomorrow today. It's always today. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Now is all that is real. So when we live in a state of anxiety, we are actually living in a fantasy world of illusion, because we're living in this idea of tomorrow, of the future. And so what anxiety is really our thoughts shaped from our filters of perception, our beliefs, values, and experiences. Our thoughts are bringing us worst case scenarios in our mind of what tomorrow looks like. Horror stories. It takes a beautiful creative imagination to be someone who is an anxious person. It takes an ability to create stories, narratives about your future, about tomorrow, about how something is going to turn out in your life. And so whenever we live in a state of anxiety, when we're feeling anxious, you can be sure that you are not in the real. And when I say real, I mean you are not present in the only moment that is true. And now, that is now. So anxiety is absolutely an illusory state to be in, and it's not helpful. And so I suffered from anxiety for a very, very long time because of the very same reason everyone else does, because of my filters of perception, the childhood traumas I went through, the experiences that I went through. I won't go into those, but you can imagine all sorts of things create a perception that the world is a bad, ugly, scary place. And so NLP is very useful for anxiety, for treating anxiety. And I've seen this radically change in my own life, in the lives of many others. And NLP is useful because it helps you go back into those narratives and stories and change the filters of perception that are shaping your world in the first place. So you no longer see the world as a struggle, as scary, as bad. You begin to see the world through a new filter of perception, which shapes the idea that there is love in the world, that there is good, that there is joy, that there is meaning, that there is destiny, that the divine is there. And that's why I moved into the spiritual world in my life, because NLP on its own is fine, but the bigger picture is that we are here because we're having a divine experience. If you take away all of our programming, everything that NLP deals with, we are left with the multidimensional being, the pure loving awareness of our essence, of who we really are here in this three-dimensional experience. So how do you get around anxiety? How do you let anxiety go? Well, first it takes acknowledgement that something's awry, that something's out of place, that it's not working. Your mode of thinking is not working for you anymore. Probably never really did. And you've just been functioning. And I talk from personal experience. So it takes acknowledgement. Secondly, know that you can change your wiring. Neuroscience has shown this. And this is in conjunction with inner child healing. We need to go back to that era from usually from ages 0 to 7, when we're in a hypnotic brainwave state. We're just downloading everything around us, the environment, the beliefs, the values, the experiences, and taking them as black and white. And so we perceive them as bad and unhelpful and scary. And so that's how we lock in our programming. So being able to have courage is from the heart, and go back to those childhood experiences. Now you can do that in subconscious techniques, in hypnosis, through NLP, but I would highly encourage shadow work as well, which is more of a spiritual understanding that we are energy, and these trapped emotions, repressed feelings that we've been pushing down our whole adult lives need to be felt, need to be seen, need to be surrendered. And then we allow that energy to finally be released, moving through us and out of us. So the process of healing from anxiety is absolutely about seeing the fears, facing the monsters that you've been hiding from and running away from your whole life, shedding light on them, light on the darkness. It transforms. So that's what shadow work is. And then finally, building a practice of living in the present moment. And for a lot of people, this involves getting rid of the old programming that you have to do and produce and achieve to be of value in society, to be of value as a human being, to be of value just to breathe. This idea that you have to do things to create self-worth, letting that go. And that's a whole nother topic, but it's very important. So releasing all of the programming that says that you're not good enough just being. And this is about being comfortable with the present moment. Because in the present moment, there's no such thing as the future. When you're purely focusing on the right now, there is no future, which is how it really is. And so you can't possibly feel anxiety, which is fear, because fear does not exist in the now moment. It depends on the illusion of time and space. And finally, if you do have anxiety, it's very good practice to begin meditation. Meditation teaches you, and there's plenty of videos out there about this, how to still your thoughts, because ultimately what drives anxiety is a very active imagination filled with thoughts of doom and gloom about the future. So practicing meditation to still the mind, it's like a muscle, you'll get good at it. It just takes focus, dedication, and priority in your life. And now all of these things I've shared with you today are things I've put into my life and seen amazing, radical results. And I no longer feel anxiety at all like that, the way I used to. I do not need medication. I do not need distraction. I do not need vices. I can be who I am right now. And this is where we can all be. So if you like this message today, please like, share, subscribe, and have a beautiful day. See ya.